Can we start
The
where
elephant in the room?
Yeah, everybody wants to hear your opinion on the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah.
Beautiful is a subjective term for gamblers, obviously. But and once again, the delay has occurred. The bill has not been voted on here. A delay in the vote.
Okay,
Your
now
thoughts?
that was one question. Now, when's the actual voting happening? In the next couple of days. They want it done by the weekend, but
I don't think we know exactly when.
Right.
I'm looking here at the news, and there's a. I don't know if this is considered a filibuster, but they're still speaking about it. So who knows? It's going on and on and on. So
okay, there's a really good guy on Twitter, and I have his some copies of some things here from him. You want to follow this person at Russ C. Fox.
Oh, Captain Jack is all about Russell Fox. He says very accurate stuff.
Yeah, Russ C. Fox, gaming accountant. I believe that's what his specialty is. So Russ. Originally yesterday he said some stuff on it, and then last night he put up a new tweet, and I'm going to read it to you. I have now read the bill. I relied on an excerpt from my gambling research service, which was wrong. Gambling losses and business expenses for professionals are limited to 90% of what's incurred, with the resulting number limited to gambling winnings. Most amateurs lose significantly, so they'll be less impacted than professionals. The full text of the Senate bill, and he posted where the bill actually was, to which Phil Galfon, a professional poker player, responded, "Thanks, Russ. To make sure I understand, if the new bill passes, if I win $100,000 and lose $150,000, even if I'm a professional, I don't owe tax." Yes, that's correct. If I win $100,000 and I lose $100,000, I owe on 10K of income. So you're going to owe taxes on 10K of your income, even though you broke even. Yes. If you file as a professional gambler, yes. Now, you do have your expenses. You can write off traveling and whatever it may be. Next part of that, Phil Galfon tweet. If I win the 100K and lose 50K, I net 50K. I owe tax on 55,000.
Yes.
And that's absolutely correct.
So the only one that sounds different than what we were talking about yesterday, so the only clarification, because this is the last two examples you give are what we talked about yesterday, but the one where you said where you win 100 but you lose 150,
right?
You said we don't have to pay tax.
Don't have to pay taxes, even if you're a professional. You don't. Now, it's not clear what a gambling session is, what a gaming session is.
That's right.
Now, I mean, is a gaming session at the end of the day? Because like at the end of the 24-hour period, or is it at the end of a quarter, or at the end of the year, or like what you think it should be if you're a professional? But let me just be blunt. This isn't good for anybody that gambles. I mean, I personally have talked about this on countless shows about how I pay a quarterly estimated tax. Then the end of the year, I'll pay an additional tax if it's due.
And you have done this forever.
Many decades. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now I do have media income now, and I do have other income that I have coming in. But let's be blunt. Most of my income, the majority, still comes from sports betting win. Comes from beating the sports books. I mean, I look at, but I do have some expenses also, traveling, but I don't travel as much. I used to go back to Jersey 3-4 months out of the year. I do not do that anymore. So I don't have those simply because they don't take my bets anymore. But I do go to Connecticut all the time. I do go to Florida. And, you have to itemize and you have to actually have deductions. I don't have as many as people would think. Even my accountant, who's very good, we actually get transcripts from the government after I file my extension, because I play a lot of video poker, so I do a lot of casino gambling on deals and whatnot. Now, I ran really stupidly good this past year and a half, so I knew I was going to have to. I know I'm getting hit with more taxes. I've been paying extra on quarterly because I ran a little stupid in the casinos this year. But normally, years previous, I was able to deduct all of my gambling losses from my video poker losses, or even casino losses when I get a deal or this or that. I meant a deal, when I get a certain deal to come in. So, listen, there's going to have to be creative deductions here I think about what Fez said on a couple shows about how he goes up, he buys into the crap table, and if he loses, then he gives his card. If he wins, he just walks away. The purpose is to make your card look better, not to skirt taxes for the government, but that would be something along the ways of people being creative. But you don't want to. What's the word I'm looking for? You don't want to produce or actually make yourself false losses. You don't want to do that. But there are situations you could be a little bit creative.
This is Ryan Kleinfelter. This is actually a subject you like, Bill. He says, Ryan Kleinfelter says, if you guys address the impact of the big, beautiful bill on sports betting, something from a full transparency standpoint should be addressed as the idea or thought that, quote, are sports bettors really reporting every dime they win? As a CPA and sports bettor, I know that pushing the envelope in terms of what is reported and maybe even on the expense side as well is a real thing already. If I know sports bettors like I think I do, they'll find a way to minimize the impact of the big, beautiful bill. Whether that's legal or not, there is no way bettors will simply accept this and pay taxes on phantom income. Thoughts on this aspect? Well, that's what I was saying yesterday, Ryan, which is the phantom income is the bugaboo in all of this. It's what, and I'll read you what Captain Jack, the commissioner of sports betting, Captain Jack Andrews, tweeted me yesterday. He says, FYI, we're starting to get mainstream coverage of all this. Washington Post is running a story, hopefully this morning. NBC Sports picked it up. David Purdom retweeted from ESPN talking about the unabated take on the big, beautiful bill. He says, but make no mistake, this would make gambling for a profit to be wholly untenable. I keep saying this, but it's true. It's an extinction event. Captain Jack calls this, if this were to pass, he calls it an extinction event for pro bettors. If people could take 2 minutes to drop an email to their representatives, especially Republican ones, he says, it is worth their time. That's from Captain Jack. And Ryan Kleinfelter before that on Twitter. This is from, I want to get this right. This is from a gentleman who had the Russ Fox, who you were quoting as their attorney, cancer-free from stage 4 NHL since May, says, small world. My parents used Russ C. Fox for their taxes for over 20 years, especially when he was based in SoCal before moving to Vegas. The man really knows what he's talking about. So the gentleman you were quoting, Russ
federally
Fox.
licensed tax professional,
Yeah.
Poker player, which that means a lot too. You're not just a tax professional. You know the pulse of the industry that you're policing. Well, policing is a strong word for his title, but he knows because he gambles also. So that's good to have someone like that.
What
What
about what Jack just said, where he says he views this as an extinction event for professional betting? What Kelly and I were talking about yesterday was, I'll give you the sort of the thumbnail of it was, if this were to come down on the one side, and then we have the casinos, the sportsbooks themselves, limiting bettors, doing anything they possibly can, spinning on you, whatever they're, limiting you to a $43 bet. When you have both sides of this, the walls closing in on you, the whole thing becomes like you do sort of wake up and you're like, and Captain Jack is referring to the pro side of things, that it is an extinction event because the math simply won't work out for bettors who make that kind of money, because you're going to get taxed on this phantom income that makes the whole endeavor not worth your time.
Yeah, it's funny that last week I'm on this show and I put a tweet out actually before this even came up about how hard it is to be a professional sports bettor now, and would you recommend this for anybody? And the answer, of course, last week was even no. Before this came up, this is just another reason. And what about, like, a perfect example in New Jersey? I'm going to read you the perfect thing here in Jersey, and perhaps the most egregious betting partnerships were criminalized in the state of New Jersey. So if you make a bet for someone else in the state of New Jersey, you're now committing a crime equal to using loaded dice on craps, marking cards in blackjack, or rigging a slot machine. I mean, it's amazing, these different things that are getting passed, and a lot, people voting on these things that never even gambled. They don't even understand. They just say, it's more money or for the state or for the federal government. But yeah, it's actually criminal now. It's getting tougher and tougher and tougher. And I'll be blunt though, Gil, we talked about it during the break, and it's a very teeter-totter subject. Do you talk about it? Do you not talk about it? There are so many professionals that don't even file taxes.
Well, this is what Ryan was sort of referring to in the tweet just now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They don't even file taxes to begin with. So it's, if you don't file taxes already, this probably doesn't mean too much to you. But, like I have to justify my lifestyle. Not that I live so fancy and extravagant, because I don't. But you have to justify what you do throughout the year. Like my accountant, I don't even take all the deductions that I could. And I told you before, he has over 4,000 clients. Personally, only does about a dozen taxes for people. His employees do. He does mine though. And I remember for years and years he would say, everyone asked me, they're looking for loopholes and how do they pay less? You're the only person out of 4,000 that wants to pay more. I said, well, Phil, his name's Phil. I said, Phil, I have to justify, $6,000-7,000 a month in credit card bills when I was traveling and stuff. So I have to justify a lot of money that I make. A lot of it's through the sports books and stuff. So I have to justify it. I'm not even going to write off a lot of the things I can write off. It's just situational year to year. But bottom line, I'm not trying to skirt over this like it's not a big deal. I think it's a giant deal. This is a giant thing for someone like myself that files taxes for.
And I just want to I'll close it because you're right. I mean, I think there's only a certain amount that there's going to be folks in the audience who it doesn't apply to. But Jack's point, I don't want to speak for Jack, but I'll try to paraphrase, which is, if this is in fact let's talk about the big pro bettors. If you are a professional bettor and you, as you say, you're justifying your lifestyle, you have to file and you're doing it this way. What Jack is saying is that, sports books ought to be really front and center. By the way, Derek Stevens is front and center on this now, as I understand it, of combating this, because you cannot get rid of professional bettors in the ecosystem and think that that's going to be a sustainable model for sports books. That was his point. And so this is not just, oh, great, anybody who's running a sports book who thinks, great, now we'll just have crappy bettors and we'll take all their money. That's not a sustainable model. And so, this is like anything in life, and this is what I was saying yesterday, and when you have politicians who don't really know the business they're talking about.
Yeah.
This is beyond sports betting, right? This applies to other industries as well. But when politicians are adding pork, they're like the line item I just mentioned in the last segment. Oh, look, we can save $400 million if I do this, and it's only going to affect this small group of of professional bettors. What do we care? This is great. $400 million found money. Bang. They have no idea the impact they're really having in doing that.
And let me tell you something else that hasn't been talked about anywhere. It's a giant thing. People don't like Big Brother on top of your back.
Right.
In general, this will be interpreted wrong by Joe Public gamblers, and possibly, and very strong possibility, it'll take them away from even betting anymore with the legal sports books.
Exactly.
It'll actually send them back offshore.
Exactly.
It'll send them back to the places that are unlicensed and unregulatory. They're not regulated.
But the congressman, or pardon me, it was the congressman who put this in as pork, probably has no understanding of that.
No understanding.
Right? He doesn't get it.
But people will get scared automatically and say, wait a minute, they'll interpret it wrong. Oh, I have to pay taxes on my winning bets at the end of a session. Screw this. I'm going back to my local corner candy store or pool hall bookmaker.
Ray on the corner.
Ray on the corner. This will be, this will definitely be, like I said, this will impact a lot more than people think. Trust me, I know they're saying, oh, it's only for pros and stuff. The Joe Publics do not want Uncle Sam, Big Brother on their back. This will affect the entire industry if this goes down like it says it is. Even though, you see, Russ Fox said it's not as bad as I originally thought. It's still bad. It's still, Uncle Sam and more eyes on your accounts, and people, they don't even like to listen. You could tell somebody, hey, get an account in your name and we'll make a lot of money together, and and they'll, in other words, bearding into a sports book. People get scared when they say, oh, well, what about if we win the tax implications? They were thinking that before this came down. Imagine what's going to happen now. So in general, I think it hurts and throws. Be blunt. It's going to throw a blanket over the entire industry, and it may hurt the sports books more than they even think. If they're saying, "Oh, we want some sharp action," I think it hurts them overall. So some people that work in the sports books, "Oh, this is great. We can keep the sharps out of here." Great. No, this is going to hurt your bottom line no matter what, in my opinion.